and they start choking on it. Like, it's kind of shitty.
I think
to
you
do,
only
though.
have somebody's filtered piss to wash it down with
Yeah,
to dry
right.
your mouth, which would make the whole thing way worse than the ice cream for me.
Gross.
Hey, pee in my mouth, and then the water you have to go and like
How many
kind of
Club
like.
Gordo saying pee in my mouth?
I'm just about to say, I'm so glad we have that.
Boy. Hey, pee in my mouth. What is wrong with you?
Welcome everyone to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we may know about the future run of that series, rate it and decide if that's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Rutherford Falls. Rutherford Falls has gone 10 episodes with one season on Peacock. Today we're going to be talking about the first episode, which was called Pilot, originally airing April 22nd, 2021. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the guys, Joe, Gordo, Ferg, and Nick. How's it going, everybody?
Hey. Hello.
Hello.
This is not a good time for people who love statues.
And before we get anything started, I just want to remind you guys, S1E1pod.com. That's where you can go to find all the links to our social medias, where to listen to us, S1E1pod.com. Please check it out. So, to get things started, Rutherford Falls, guys. Has anyone seen the show up until recording this episode?
No.
Nope.
I don't even really think I knew it existed, honestly.
Negatory.
We watched the whole series when it came out. This is one of those shows that they sort of like put on the back of Peacock coming out, right? Where they were like, hey, you're going to have The Office, and hey, look, this new Andy Bernard show is going to happen. So I think we watched it that first weekend all the way through.
Yeah, and I had never seen it, but had meant to. So to let everyone know, I'm the one who picked this episode. I just figured it's a Michael Schur show. Everything he's done, I've been a big fan of. Obviously, The Office, Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Good Place. So now this just seemed like a slam dunk. And Peacock exclusive. I think this is the first
like a
Peacock
foul.
exclusive we've done.
It's
Yeah, I
weird
think
that
so.
I love everything that Michael Schur's done, but I still have zero interest in watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I hate it.
I've never
Oh, I'm
seen
a-
it. It
I'm a
just looks
fan.
like I won't like it.
I heard it gets better. I watched the beginning and it was like too silly for me, but people told me it got better. I might pick it back up.
We won't tangent too long on that,
Yeah.
but I'll say the first time I saw an episode randomly on television, it just wasn't really for me. And then a year or so ago, when there was nothing going on in the world at all, I decided to give it another shot just because I kind of trusted the creative minds behind it. And I ended up binging the whole entire series in like a week. It was like an insane amount of episodes in a little bit amount of time. But yeah, we'll get into Rutherford Falls.
And I'm sure we'll cover that eventually too.
100% we're going to cover that eventually.
Yeah, that's definitely on the list.
So to start things right away, the show starts with this like close up of a face of a statue, and it slowly pans out and it reveals like the whole statue, and it's just kind of just sitting there, and you're just looking at the statue. Boom, a car runs straight into it, and you kind of see that the statue in itself is just kind of in the middle of the road, and that's just how things start. There's really no context behind it at this time.
I do love that the cop is so used to explaining the situation. When the lady's screaming about it, she's like, it's dumb. He just goes,
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because
Just reactionary.
Yeah, because after the crash, we cut to like, it's later in the day now, and now we see like the tow trucks there and the cop and all that. And she even asks him, like, why is there even a statue in the middle of the street? And he's like, I don't know, it's just kind of always been there.
I love the like laziness of not having an answer for that too. Like, you're a town employee. Your entire answer is like, I just always been like that, man. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I don't get that because, like you said, he's a town employee, but it's very detailed as to why, and we'll get into that later when we get to it, but there's a reason why it's there.
Right.
So if you are an employee of the town, chances are you're probably from there, so you should know.
Yeah, I feel like anybody who even has lived there for a little while probably gets that story very quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what? I'll say
There's a
this.
reason why it's there, but there's not a reason why there's a fucking road going right into it.
That's
what
another
bothers me
part of
about
my-
this whole stupid show.
That's another
the
part of
whole
my
premise
problem.
could have been fixed by just making the road go whoop around.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep,
well,
we could just have a rotary or like,
Yeah.
a fork in the road.
No. My problem with the whole logistics of it is there's like a park right across the street. Just extend the park.
Right.
to
I mean,
that.
listen, yeah.
Where's the road gonna go though?
Well,
But it was just like a road that's kind of like
We
an
don't
L.
need roads.
I want to go back a second though to what you guys were saying about how
Roads.
you live in the town. You live in the town, so therefore you should know. But I'll say this: the town we all grew up in, right? There is a statue that is right next to the police station. Can any of you tell me what it is and why it's there?
That
Dean
is
Winthrop.
no, it's not.
Greg
That is
Winthrop.
the Spanish-American War veterans statue.
Okay,
It is.
Fucking
Yep.
nerd.
so I'll be honest, I didn't know that. Gordo, you did. Nick, you were aware of
I
that?
didn't know it.
I
don't
didn't-
even
I
know
wouldn't
what
have been
it
able to
looks
tell
like.
you, but now that
Alright.
he said it,
I know it's
remembered, yeah.
there, but
Yeah.
I literally have no clue.
So I was going to say, it's down the street from where I live. And I'll say this, just to defend the point from earlier, 1 out of 5 of us knew what statue that was and why it's there. And that's in our town. It's been there our whole
Well,
life.
isn't there also a big statue in that little square thing across from the library next to the police station? Like, there's like a little triangle there.
We're talking
Isn't
about.
that like pillars?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the big one on like the library lawn.
No, the one like
No.
in its own little island near the police
Yeah,
station.
okay, all right. What's the one on the library lawn?
No
this-
idea.
It's
yeah, I don't
huge,
know.
isn't it? It's like it's got like
Is that a World
concrete
War II remember?
I
like
think
so.
stone
Maybe so,
walls.
yeah.
And
And
somebody
let's
else.
and let's not bore the people listening too much about
Regardless,
the.
though, if that was in the center of the street and cars were hitting it about 4 or 5 times a week, you'd know what that was. That's
Right.
True.
Right, but it also just change the road layout. Like the thing can be there, but they have civil engineers who
Yeah,
design
make a
streets
little
and
rotary
roads.
around it. Like
Yeah.
you don't need to go straight into
Well,
it.
listen, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of suspended disbelief here. It's television, but yes, there are very simple fixes to this.
Suspension
that
of
are-
disbelief only goes so far with me. That's like a big thing.
But
I will say, I'm not going to say their name on this, but somebody that we know who is as dumb as a box of rocks is a engineer who designs roads, and this makes sense when I think of it that way.
So from this scene, we go right into the intro, right, where it's just kind of like this upbeat music and I don't know, just very simple, almost like Flash style type of cartoons. And it's just like showing you the
It's a
town.
jaunty little jingle.
Yeah, it's the town of Rutherford Falls. You're kind of seeing like a little bit of the history in modern day, and just that it's I don't know, a simple town, but it's all done in like light, very easy cartoon form. Not much to it. I thought it was fine for this type of show.
It's kind of that weird modern computer cartoony though that always throws me off.
Yeah, like I said, it kind of gave me a Flash vibe, but yeah, I mean, I'm not an I'm not an animator. I couldn't tell you exactly what was done there, but yeah, I don't know. It's simple and upbeat, and just kind of intros you to the town.
I like the chickens in it.
Okay.
I noticed the chickens in the.
Please write a
the
Yelp review
turkeys.
to that end. 5 stars. I liked the chickens.
Green light for the chickens.
Yeah. So
Fuck this show. Those chickens though.
and then as soon as the intro is done, we cut to a man delivering a speech, right? And that man is played by Ed Helms. So obviously Ed Helms is in a million things now. I think for me will always be best remembered from The Office playing Andy Bernard, but obviously the Hangover
Mr.
movies.
Andrew Bernard.
Just call him Drew. He's going by
Drew.
Drew now.
Andy.
And then I don't know. I would assume those two things are the big ones. But would you guys say there's anything else that really stands out as like his big roles?
I
No,
always
I
think
think
of Cedar Rapids and
Yeah.
The Goods.
It's weird to be
Forgot
in
he's
Cedar
the bad
Rapids.
guy in the goods.
Cedar Rapids and Rutherford Falls are way too similar.
I was thinking that it seems weird that they're both like Midwestern town named themed things.
Yeah.
Would this show be different or possibly better or worse if it was just a TV adaptation of Cedar Rapids? Because then we get Sigourney Weaver
That.
and Kurtwood Smith.
And the Ronimal.
The Ronimal is fantastic.
I've actually
All
never
right,
seen it.
Everybody's assignment later is to just go
you'd
watch
love
Cedar
that.
Rapids.
That's a
Everybody
great
rules.
movie.
I'll check it out if I ever find 2 hours of my life where I can dedicate to watching a movie again.
That's one of those movies that once you see it, like you'll quote it all the time. Like,
Yeah, it gets
full
stuck
of
in there.
quotes.
So I want to go over the speech that he tells him. So bear with me. I'm going to do my best to read this. He says, years ago, brave settlers landed in a new world. They cleared dense forests, survived unforgiving winters, and befriended their Native American counterparts, all in the service of founding the very town in which you're standing right now. I'm Nathan Rutherford, and it is my distinct honor to introduce you to some of the men and women. But before I do that, does anyone have to go potty? And
I do.
and yeah, so that's when we reveal that this speech is being delivered to a bunch of children, like on a school trip. I would say maybe I don't know, early elementary school age, right around there.
Yeah, right around there.
It's like 8-ish, maybe.
That's the kind of like field trip Winthrop would have taken us to.
Well, I was thinking
Pretty
about
sure
that.
we've been on that field trip before.
I was trying to think like,
Salem Witch House is the equivalent. Like,
yeah, and we had talked
Wolf Hollow.
months ago too when we
God.
did our thanks episode for Thanksgiving, which you could find back in the archives. When we went to like Plymouth Plantation, or forget what they call it now.
Blood Rock.
Pawtuxet something.
Yeah, but like those kind of historical trips. And it's funny because we do have the Dean Winthrop house in Winthrop, but I don't remember. I'm sure we did tours as kids, but I could tell you nothing about it if I did.
I remember I was in it when I was older. It's the oldest occupied house in the United States.
Hey now.
So there's
Yeah.
that.
So I feel like there's like kind of similar notes to Rutherford Falls and where we grew up a little bit, but I don't think they specifically
can see that.
say what part of the country it's in. I kind of get a
Get a distinct
Midwest
Midwest vibe.
feel.
I thought that it said upstate New York later
Was it?
on.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm not sure.
I thought that I
Or
heard
is that where the
that
brother
somewhere in
moved
the
to,
show.
maybe?
I think maybe
Oh,
that's where the brother
maybe.
went.
oh, the brother moved
okay.
to Texas, didn't he?
No, because he's in the old family house. So
And
maybe they
the
are in New York.
sister,
Okay, I'll have to
the sister
look
we
into
find
that.
out is like working in like Manhattan or something like that. But yeah, I don't know, and no need to dwell on it, I guess now. But from there we go to the inside of the house where the tour is actually going on, and he does like a curtain reveal to show a picture of the statue that we saw earlier, and learn that that's Lawrence Rutherford, who was the founder of the town and his patriarchal ancestor. And at that point we get this like excited gasp from the teacher, who's like trying to excite the kids about the situation, which obviously
teacher is soaked over Mr. Andrew Bernard through this scene.
yeah, she's a big fan of his.
She's definitely moist, right, Joe?
Oh fuck.
Okay.
There's definitely an extended scene they cut out where she got trapped at some point in the big Larry statue bending over and tried to get Andy to get her out.
Now you're just forcing it.
Well, anyways, her name is Miss Fish, and she's played by Beth Stelling. She's mainly known for being a stand-up. She has a few acting roles when I looked her up. Mainly stand-up is kind of her go-to leading into this role for the show.
Just so you guys know, it is New York State.
Okay, great. Great. When Nathan asks if anyone sees the resemblance, Miss Fish says in the jaw and in the shoulders, in the chest, and probably some other places, which it's like, and he gives like a quick uncomfortable, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
this is
I
in
thought
front of
it
a bunch
was
of like 8-year-old kids.
Yeah, this is one of those things where you love in shows like this where like you get a bunch of cast, right? There's a lot of characters in this. Like there are even the people who you get like 2 seconds of throwaway lines who work in the casino. But there's so many people that when you can throw someone for one scene and they're just super funny and then push them back out again. Like I love that like economy of time where it's like, yep, they're funny for one scene. Move on.
Yeah, I would say that this show is a little different than some of the other Michael Schur shows in that it is more focused around a smaller amount of characters, but every character does have like a significant part and like developed character to them. But there's like the main two people, and we'll talk about the other one in a second, but I did think that was a little different because his show is kind of known for having a more ensemble cast all the time. And this one, although they did give voices to all the characters, it's not so much centered around a team of people like normal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could say that the other Michael Schur shows had that ensemble in the first episode, though. I mean, even if you look at something like, The Good Place, it's definitely just, Eleanor and Michael, really, I think.
No, 'cause I think
The
you
Office
need
starts
cheating.
with, it's just Michael and Ryan, and I think you kind of get to poke at, like Dwight and Jim for a second, but I mean, it's not the whole ensemble, so it's definitely, they're going to progress, I think, into an ensemble.
Yeah, I just think that
That's a
this
good
one's
point. I think you have a really good point with The Good Place. I feel like that's a good one, right? Because half the episode is just two people.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, this is only episode 1, so I don't have enough to go off of. But I did see. I felt like the show was centering around 2 a little tighter than some of the other shows. Not that he's making the same show over and over again by any means. So It's not like there's a formula there. It
And
flagged
that
me
was
as a little
actually, I think, I don't know if it was just me or somebody else. That was actually my complaint for our Parks and Rec episode, if you want to go back. You didn't get to experience the other cast members enough, which I guess is by design. You can't waste too much time on these people who you're going to see eventually, right?
Right, you only have
just
so
kinda
many
gotta
minutes.
Adapt, or not adapt. You got to establish the story first and then work into them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Actually, I really like this too because as the tour continues, we see, I don't know, just different shots of him showing artifacts and parts of the house. But then there's the scene where he's reenacting like this possum infestation that the town suffered in 1747 or whatever. And it's like, I banish you all to hell, possums. And his assistant has like these like two possum puppets like in his hands that he's just kind of like reaching out towards them. And you get this slow motion, dramatic, echoey audio sound reenactment of him attacking these puppets with a sword.
These sort of things, like these sort of field trips, like there's that like old expression, like youth is wasted on the young. You know what I mean? Where it's like you can't sort of have the same fun you would when you are retired or whatever. I feel like field trips in places like this are wasted on the young, right? Like this wouldn't have been anywhere near as fun at 8 as it would be at 36, right? Like if we were all there together and some dude started sword fighting a possum now, we would enjoy the fuck out of that so much more.
Start doing
than we would
wrestling
as kids.
commentary. Like, my God!
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
I loved it.
So many Bobby
loved
Heenan
it.
comments.
I thought that scene was really good. I was kind of surprised because even as I'm describing it, I felt like you guys weren't reacting in the way I was gonna. Because I thought it was hilarious, and I was like, oh, no one seemed to think it was as funny as I did.
No, I did.
I enjoyed that a lot.
I enjoyed it. That is something I would totally do if I was in charge of telling reenactment of a great possum invasion.
I was going to say, that seems like a thing that is like your bread and butter. Like if you came to me tomorrow and you said, I've got a great idea for a new book. It's called The Great Possum Infestation of 1747. I wouldn't bat an eye at that. I'd be like, awesome, write it. That is the next Gordo project. I totally get it.
That's very Parks and Rec like too. Like they had the what are they, raccoons that are always invading Pawnee.
I think so. I think that's when Andy Samberg had his cameo, actually.
Do you feel like there maybe part of this, because it's similar to Parks and Rec 2, is them maybe being like, we should tell a story that's like, I don't want to say less shitty because they always came around and were really good to the Native Americans, but like there are so many scenes in Parks and Rec where they're just like, and here's a mural of Native Americans getting slaughtered, and this show is kind of from a different take on that.
What I remember from Parks and Rec when it comes to that stuff though is I forget the character's name, like the main Native American guy who's kind of the head guy in the area. I forget his name, but yeah, but he always kind of had like a one up on the town and like could take advantage of the fact that like the white people were basically afraid of anything he said, and like when he talked about curses
thought he
and
could
stuff,
do magic and stuff.
So even though there was all that, like he was always the one that kind of had the upper hand over everyone else in the situations. And this is also when we find out that Lawrence, the statue, he had brokered Big Larry brokered a uniquely fair and honest deal, as Nathan said, with their neighbors, the Minneshanka, and that was what established the town that they now have today. And as that happens, he's showing like everyone the framed document of like where the terms of the deal were laid out, and I don't know, I felt like that would come into play later, perhaps. To get into it, it doesn't really in this specific episode anything that's in that specific glass case, but I kind of got the vibe that it would come into play later. I don't know if it does or doesn't.
Yeah, they give it its own moment where you pay attention to it more than something they sort of just toss off.
I have a feeling that it's foreshadowing something later on in the series, but I'm not sure. Because, again, I haven't watched this. Up until about a half hour ago, I haven't seen this show, period. So I couldn't tell you.
Right.
Without saying anything more, because I've seen the show before, I'm like the only one who's seen the whole way through, this whole episode is filled with, like, I don't want to call them Easter eggs, because that's not what it is, but, like, seeds. They put stuff down for you to go back to later.
Yeah, and one of the things that he does mention as far as the terms go is that to honor the exact location that the deal was made, that's why there's that statue in the middle of the road there. It has to be in that specific spot because that's where the deal was actually made. I like that one of the kids asked if they had made a statue of any of the Minneshanka to go with it. He's like, great question. He's like, bronze was really expensive at the time, so they really only had the budget for the one.
That's the
really
Andy
just skirting the topic there because they obviously didn't make one because they didn't want to.
Yeah, it was not important to them.
That's the line he says the most where I hear him as Andy Bernard.
Oh, there's a
Bronze
couple
was
later
very
on.
Expensive. It's like him explaining his like racist parents or something.
There was one, we'll get into it later, that he was Andy in that specific scene, and I'll get into it. But
is it his freak out?
No, not specifically that. Like I said, we'll get into it. He does encourage all the kids to visit the Minneshanka Cultural Center, and that his friend Regan runs.
By the way, not a real Native American tribe. I looked it up.
Oh, you know what? I never even thought to.
I didn't either.
I didn't
Minnetonka, which is strange because Minnetonka is...
this is the Minneshanka.
Minneshanka. Okay, Minnetonka is real then.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Tonka's
probably...
real.
I wonder if there was some sort of a legality or they didn't want to, be unfair to someone's namesake, so maybe they just kind of altered it so, this way anything that they said didn't, affect someone's actual history. Maybe they were just trying to be careful that way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I do know from reading about this, like I think Regan and then the guy who's the CEO or whatever, they're both like from different tribes, right, in real life.
Oh,
so
yeah, they're both actually Native Americans, yes.
But they're not from the same tribes. I think it's probably a way to just be like, let's just do a catch-all thing to make it easier.
Right. And then speaking of, that's when we first meet Regan. I believe her name's Regan Wells. And her name is Jana Schmeeding. I might be butchering that. I apologize if I am. Jana? Jana?
I would say
If
maybe
it's Jana or
Yana.
Yana.
I would say
Could be.
Yana maybe, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm not sure, so I apologize to the actress who plays Regan. And she's delivering a speech of her own, and she's starting with...
apologizing to me for making me watch her.
Okay.
She's so boring and can't act.
And for those of you who've been tracking our show over the since April, you might know by now that Ferg hates all women.
I don't hate women. I hate bad actors.
If you have to say every week that you don't hate women because you say that the other woman in the show is someone you don't like, then maybe there's a little bit of a trend there that you need to be aware
I've
of.
hated several characters. You only pointed out when it's women to make me look bad.
There was one exception. It was John Mulaney.
There's been plenty.
Okay, well, we'll get into that later. But in any event, this is when Regan starts with her speech saying, "The history of indigenous people is the greatest story never told." But as we pan out, we see that she's actually just practicing a pitch for museum expansion. She's not actually telling a speech to other people like Nathan was earlier. No one's in this cultural center, and it just kind of looks like a jewelry store with no jewelry in it. Like they're starting a new store, and they forgot to put all the product in.
It looks like an airport stall. Like when you're so deep in the airport that you're past security, and then like they're like, oh, this is the Vuitton store or whatever, but it's like, a closet.
Yes, yeah.
It reminded me of Square One Mall. If you go there now, and there's all these hippie stores, and like
Yeah.
they don't have any
Yeah.
merchandise in them whatsoever.
Yep.
It is such a weird thing that's what happened. Like malls died, and now the big stores just sell rugs at a discount.
Yeah.
And all the little stores just sell used books or hippie shit. Like, what a weird decline.
Yeah, and they have like
that
those
malls
weird
have had.
stores that sell like fountains and swords, and it's just
Oh, those
you
stores
could-
also sell Zippos, knives, and framed photos of Michael Jackson.
So everything's just become Building 19.
It really has, yeah.
Listen, you guys are describing my new business. My frame Michael Jackson, sword, knives, catch-all stall inside of the mall.
Michael Jackson's.
Yeah, we'll be sure to plug that once you set up your grand opening.
I feel like rent is so cheap in malls now. It would make sense. It would probably be cheap enough for us to get a tiny store in the mall and just broadcast live out of it once a month.
You know what's kind of funny is that's why all these malls are empty. To not get into too big of a tangent, they still charge so much for rent that they've priced out all these small businesses, and then they would rather like have all the stores be empty than come down on their prices to keep the mall full and,
I don't
and actually
get it.
operate.
They priced out the Disney store, but a little mom and pop like hippie store can go where the Disney store was.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys do you miss these malls? Because I kind of don't.
I do
kind of
sometimes.
do.
I do.
But I mean,
I
you
like
go
the
to these malls
browsing.
too for Christmas time. They still feel like the mall. All the staples are still there. I mean, the stores that leave these malls are like the stores that go out of business globally, right? Like, so you have like your Searses and stuff like that. that go out, but they're gone everywhere now, right? So you still have all the main ones, and
No, I feel like every mall now is half full.
Yeah, I would say the biggest hits these malls take is the food courts. The food courts just die instantly.
But how come every mall now has 3 different stores that only sell regional sports team things?
Yeah.
But there's one on every floor.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you didn't have the David Ortiz jersey I wanted. I'll check on floor 2. And if they don't have one, I'll check the same store on floor 3 Like, why is
Yeah.
that?
Apparently,
How
the
can
only
they thrive?
successful store that can succeed in a mall. So
The
all
pretzel
have
places.
somehow.
The pretzel places are always got lines. Like,
You know what's
they're
funny, though?
always busy.
Those sports stores, I always like go in them thinking like, oh, like when it's Christmas or birthdays, I'm always like, I could probably find some shit my dad would like here. But all that stuff is so expensive. And all it is
Oh, yeah,
is like,
'cause it's like a piece of Jose Canseco's jersey in the frame with its
something like that would be
he
invaluable.
would
I
buy that in
yeah.
a second.
I would
I
pay
know
anything.
that you love the Bash Brothers.
But no, it's always like those fake Abbey Road with sports players photos.
I was just gonna say,
Abbey
where
Road
else are you gonna
Simpsons
get?
one, yeah.
Where else are you gonna get Bill Belichick crossing the Delaware with
Yeah.
Tom Brady
you're
and
like-
company?
And you're like, why is this $150? Like, who's
So
buying this?
some guy printed
Gordo,
that
you
in his
just
back
nailed
room,
the essence
too.
of those stores so fucking perfectly. Bill Belichick crossing the Delaware is the most one of those store things I can ever think of.
They always have that same print on like a throw rug, on a t-shirt, on a hat, and like anything else that you want that specific print on, you can get it. Like chin sign, whatever, you name it. Like that's what these stores are. And then, like you said, the Abbey Road one.
So yeah, and also like as to go back to the actual store itself, it pans across and you find out that the cultural center is actually just inside of a casino.
Which I still have never been inside of before.
You've never been inside of a casino before?
Never gone to a casino before. I've played slot
We're
machines.
taking a
and, like,
trip.
Really?
We gotta go to
Yeah, I would love to.
Foxwoods
I
so
always
we can
wanted to go to
smoke.
one. They opened the one in Boston.
smoke in
I got really
Foxwoods
excited
anymore.
for it, and then pandemic happened, and I didn't want to go in it.
The Boston one sucks anyway. You don't want to go to that one.
Yeah,
It's
the
not
Boston one
phenomenal, but
sucks.
well,
I've
that's
heard it's bad. Yeah.
You're better off going to Foxwoods for the full experience.
I can guarantee you this is conversation that no one will find interesting as they listen to.
Well, maybe we can all go to Foxwoods and maybe we can live stream it, or somebody can join us if they are in the Connecticut area.
Yeah, I'm sure
What,
people
a
would love
meet and
that.
greet?
Yeah, at the
Yeah, we want the
Slingo
one psycho
slot
from
machine.
Connecticut who listens to show up at the casino to see us. I
Yay.
don't think so.
We're gonna go do a meet and greet over at the Slingo slot machine while Gordo's sucking back.
I heard you guys would be
Stints.
giving away stickers.
Can't get one of those magnets.
But anyways, to close out
Or
our
maybe they'll be the only one of us who has enough money to bail Gordo out of jail for whatever he ends up doing to get himself in casino jail that day.
You can't mess around with tribal law. But anyways, just to close out her little speech, she's trying to find a nice line, and she is about to say winner cultural center. And then she's like, oh, wow. She's like, she realizes the fault in even attempting to use that as a line. And so she starts texting Nathan and asking him if they can meet up so she can do like another run through of her pitch. And as she's doing that, a couple of people walk into the cultural center thinking that it's just a store because it looks just like a store. One is this like old guy who said he won $800 and he wants to get something for his wife. And the other's like this, I don't know, about 50-year-old woman who's just looking for shot glasses.
I love the idea of being drunk and looking for shot glasses that you can't use at the moment. Like, I don't know why. That seems like buying something after the fact. You know, it's like eating cereal, finishing it, and then buying milk. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? You don't need the shot glass now. You're already wasted.
Because that's like the short vacation present. If you go on a road trip, you bring someone home a shot glass.
That's true. I've got plenty of ones that say stuff from all different places or whatever.
Yeah.
I have a shot glass collection.
Because, yeah, they are easy. It's one of those things that wherever you're at, you know it'll be available. Like, if you wanted to get in the habit of giving someone whatever else every time you go somewhere, the odds of finding it every time, like, there was a point when I was younger, when I would travel, I'd, like, buy my brother, like, a snow globe, but you're not going to find a snow globe every time you're in a gift shop. Or, you know, the Beanie Bears at one point, they used to, when Beanie Babies were a thing, they would always have, like, Beanie Bears that were, like, knockoffs that would just say, like, you know, the city on it, like Boston or whatever.
North Dakota.
You could probably still find those at the Square One Mall.
Yeah, probably.
It's a Beanie Baby crossing the Delaware.
Can we Photoshop ourselves? Jay, can you make a
Can I do it? Do you mean-
S1E1 with us crossing the Delaware?
We also need an Abbey Road one too.
The Abbey Road one will probably make the most sense at some
Yeah.
point, but yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm doing it anytime soon, but I'll keep that in mind in the future. But anyways,
We'll get a really weird new fan base if we start
Yeah.
posting content like that everywhere.
just us doing historical reenactments. Oh, they must be like a history podcast. Oh no, just television sitcoms.
No,
Well,
these
why-
guys are really big Patriots fans.
Yeah. But anyways, she's trying to like prevent both of these people from touching anything. So she's just trying to like push them out of there and saying that she's going to close the cultural center down a little early tonight and tells them to go gamble away their 401ks, which is like rude, but they're both too drunk to realize it.
To get back, I do have a question about when she was texting Nathan. I didn't know that she was texting him specifically.
Oh, who did I mean, I just assumed at that point, but obviously it was
Because I
the
thought
case.
he
But
said honey in it.
I don't remember specifically. I don't remember that
Super
though.
honey, yeah.
They also do the throwback to like we've done a few different shows now where they show the text on the screen when they're typing.
Yeah, and it's funny because
Yeah.
like
Sometimes it bothers, sometimes it doesn't. This one didn't bother me. What about
no,
you guys?
it seems
Nope.
to only really bothered me on the Big Show show, and I don't know.
Show
I don't-
somehow did it wrong.
I don't know what they did so different that made it seem goofy. Every other time
just
it's like, this is a practical effect. This makes sense. And then there it was like, oh, what the fuck are they doing?
There was so much ill will with all of us at the Big show that we were just picking at a scab, right? Like anything they did.
Yeah,
just
there's
made us
probably a
fucking
lot of it.
angry.
No, it wasn't a bad show. Go back and watch it.
The one
Big
green light
show.
from Gordo.
Your boy Gordo here likes you.
We all like Paul White. We've been over that, but that's
Yeah,
like,
we're all
it's a-
Big Show
yeah,
fans.
It's a story for
That
another
show
day.
just honks.
If you asked him, he'd probably tell you he doesn't like the show either.
Most likely.
Probably.
But in any event, we cut back to Nathan's where Regan is now at, and he's still like doing a presentation. I think it's still the same one, right? I think. But he's showing the children film that he clearly made of, himself, and he's playing Lawrence Rutherford in it, and he's dressed up the way the statue's dressed up. And he's using this like miniature display set to show the town. Like he has a whole replica town like in his home or in the museum. I don't know. Does he live there? I think he does.
I didn't know either. I couldn't tell
They
if that's where he
never
lived or not.
truly say it. But like even when they're like alone together, I think they're in like the basement or like a back room of the museum.
Yeah, it does seem like they're in the same building.
I'm under the impression he lives there, but I don't really know, to be honest with you.
Joe,
Right, 'cause
break
that's
the
also
rule.
his
Tell
job,
us.
and it doesn't seem like that brings in a lot of money.
He also says it's like his land too, so maybe maybe he does have ownership to
There's
that
probably like a
house.
little like side house or something that he
Yeah.
When he says it's
resides
his
in.
land, I think he means the whole town.
At some point, he definitely does.
Maybe he's just got one of those sad little rooms like in the back with like a hot plate and a toilet. And he's like, "This is my cot, and this is my living room."
I don't use any of the modern amenities that Lawrence didn't use himself and when he founded this town.
Everything's copper pots.
So when the video concludes, he has this his intern Bobby Yang, who's played by Jesse Lee, who's I don't recognize Jesse from any things. I tried doing a little IMDb search. I didn't get a lot of information. Just non-binary, I believe pronouns. I called Jesse him earlier, which I apologize is incorrect. I believe
It's a they-them
They-them
scenario.
situation,
I think
yeah.
they were in Superstore for an episode.
for a episode, because that was the only I tried doing an IMDb search, and there's just not a lot of credits there. But
I
very funny
love
in
that
this.
character though because they're just so invested in everything,
yeah,
but they shouldn't be. They should be the
Right.
kind of person that's like, this sucks.
yeah, you would think someone like that would be like not in line with someone like Nathan at all, but
He's
just
he's
blind
all
loyalty.
on board though. Like,
Well, if you go with
Exactly.
Michael Schur shows too, right? He's a high school intern, like April is in Parks and Rec,
And
they
April
are
hates it.
wildly different
Yeah,
mentalities for that position.
but I did like this because when it concludes, Bobby Yang hands all the kids astronaut ice cream, which we did talk about in one of the
We
other
have
episodes.
talked about, yeah.
Because was it Gordo that didn't know that was a thing?
Yeah.
But this one's
You were
different.
thinking about Dippin' Dots.
Yeah, this one is a different astronaut ice cream from the original one that we had as kids.
Yeah,
this one
was like
is
a dry ice cream sandwich.
exactly. It's still like Neapolitan style, but it's it's an ice cream sandwich where ours were just basically dry sponges that we.
They still got the description right though. It was
Exactly,
like
it's the same stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, she's gagging on it, like not just choking, but gagging.
Been
That
there,
is the
done
most
that.
accurate description.
My favorite part about this is she's trying to look sexy
Right.
while eating this.
You know what?
and
She's succeeding because she does it for me.
Yeah, as she's doing it though, yeah, she's like, "Bravo, Nathan, you've made history come alive, and you awaken things in me and the students, different awakenings." So, yeah, that's when she goes to bite that astronaut ice cream, and she's just choking on it.
She's trying to do the like the liquor lips and look sexy thing, but she's choking on the. Ice cream.
Gordo, you haven't had it. Those are so dry. You have no idea how dry they are.
Like, I don't think you could actually lick your lips because those things make your entire body devoid of moisture.
But they also don't taste bad.
They don't, but they're so dry. It is ice cream that was to be enjoyed when you were in either in war or in space. You know what I mean? Like situations where you don't have a lot of options.
It's almost like failed cotton candy. Like they were trying to make it and they fucked up somehow.
Failed cotton candy. New band name, called it.
Someone made cotton candy, and they're like, "I wonder if we could turn this into beef jerky."
I was like, I wonder if we can make this fucking awful.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Can you imagine being an astronaut, getting all the way up to space, living your dream, and then you're like, I'm going to go have myself some of that ice cream, and then they're floating through space, eating that nasty shit, and they start choking on it, like, it's kind of shit.
I think you only have somebody's filtered piss to wash it down.
Yeah,
to dry your mouth, which would make the whole thing way worse than the ice cream for me.
Right.
Hey, pee in my mouth, and then the water, you have to go and like
How many
kind of
clip
like.
Gordo saying pee in my mouth?
I'm just about to say, I'm so glad we have that.
Boy. Hey, pee in my mouth. What is wrong with you?
You can get a bunch of
I love
space
the out
ice
of
cream from
context
Walmart.
clips.
I like Gordo's realization
what?
of what he just said.
I was saying you can get a bunch of space ice cream from Walmart for $22.95.
Oh, I thought
I'll
you
piss in
meant
your
pee
mouth for free.
Oh boy. So after that ice cream scene, we get Regan and Nathan in the hallway, and they're walking. She's like, "Man, you really got to ask Miss Fish out before she dies trying to drop a hint." And he's like, "No, that's not going to happen." And she's like, "Why not?" And he's like, "I don't know. She doesn't get it." And that's like a big thing with him is you either get it or you don't get it.
Is that your Andy moment?
No, actually, it isn't.
I'm going to keep guessing.
I was going to say, I love that it's bothering you, though. And so then she's like, "Well, okay, so who gets it?" And then he gives a list. And the list is an interesting one because he says you, talking to Regan, Tom Petty, Missy Elliott, Nelson Mandela, Cheech Marin, the Dollies, Parton,
Jay-Z,
and
Tupac,
Llama.
and Biggie.
Polly. Farting in the llama.
The Dollies.
Ferg, one of your favorites, Taka Waititi.
He even said it like me.
Yeah. And then her Uncle Ernie. So these are the people that in his mind get it. They just get it.
And a lot of people who will end up on shows we cover.
Missy Elliott?
What sitcom has the Dalai Lama appeared on?
I said a lot of, not all of them.
Clone High.
But we will get Cheech Marin. We've pretty much already gotten Taka because of producing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we'll get through some of
in the
it.
shadows, yeah.
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 Nelson Mandela is hilarious.
Tom Petty, because we will do King of the Hill.
And anyways, so now we cut to his basement workshop area. We kind of talked about that earlier. I'm assuming it's the basement level of this historical museum. And Regan's looking over all the signage that Nathan made for her, which we find out later is for her presentation that she was practicing when she was by herself earlier. And then she tells him he doesn't need to be doing all this for her because, he has to prep for Founders Day, which usually causes him to lose his hair. But he acknowledges how important this is to her. And she
it
says,
always grows back.
and it does always grow back. She says that she should just cancel, and that's when he's like, Regan Blanchard Wells. And she goes, Nathan Collins Rutherford. So I think at this point we're establishing how close these two are. And they mention, like, he mentions that it's been her dream since 4th grade. So are we to assume they're the same age?
I would say so.
She seems younger, but I guess I could see it.
Yeah, it's possible, but like the eye test tells me that like she's a bit younger. And I'll say this because at this point I tried looking it up. Good luck finding out how old she is.
I mean, Andy was
Why?
way older than Erin.
It's like not available information.
What was her name again?
I'm excited to say it again.
Yeah, I didn't know it. Yeah, I didn't know it the first time.
It was Jana or Yana.
Schmieding.
Sure.
Schmieding, yeah.
Robert Schmeigel.
From Saturday Night Live?
Yes.
But yeah, in any event, so he tells her to do the presentation for him and does an impersonation of Terry Thomas, who's the guy who runs the casino. His impersonation is, I run the casino, I'm scary and loom large in your life. You've had stress dreams about me in which we're Chuck E. Cheese and you haven't won any tickets. Which apparently is a dream that she told him in confidence. And he goes, yeah, I know, I just love that story. And again, it was like, that was a little bit of an Andy, the way he delivered that line when he said that he just loved that story, but not the one I was referring to. And
This is where they get a little flirty, too.
I wasn't sure. I thought about that at one point. I couldn't tell if they had a flirty relationship or if they're just that tight.
besties.
That's.
I feel like at this scene, though, this scene particularly felt flirty. Not always, but in this scene, I got it.
I think any show where you're just meeting the characters and you're seeing that this is clearly the male and female lead and that they have a strong relationship, there's obviously that thought in your head, like, is this going to lead to something, right? And we've talked about that in past episodes. I guess in this particular case, I never saw the two of them as potentially romantic. But you did in this point, and what about the rest of you guys? Did you get that vibe that maybe the two of them would end up?
Sort
I
of.
Started getting the idea. that they
No,
would.
but it's because of what we talked about a little while ago. Their age gap looks big to me, and I know maybe it's not written that way, but because that's how I see it, I don't see like romance between them.
Yeah.
And I guess that doesn't matter. I guess a young person can date an old person, but
That's true.
My problem actually comes at the end of. I get into it with the green light and cancel, but the I didn't think so, but something ruined that for me. And then as I saw it, it kind of made me think throughout the whole show and reevaluate their relationship.
And then when she starts to do the presentation to him, she starts with that same line of the history of indigenous people is the greatest story never told. And as she's going to go and continue on, Nathan's phone rings. And it's Corbin Hayes from the Daily Star. And he answers like, hey, Purple Haze. And he starts doing air guitar. And you can kind of tell they cut to Corbin's reaction. And it's not the first time he's heard this. And I don't think it's the first time he's heard this from Nathan. Because he looks a little annoyed. And you actually also get Regan kind of rocking out too, though, while he's doing it. So they're very on the same page, I guess, there.
Yeah, they're in sync.
No, it's Jimi Hendrix, not in sync.
It's Michael Hayes, not Purple Haze.
Oh. What would you have done if he's like, hey, and he just starts singing Bad Street USA? Yeah.
I would have gotten very excited. I got excited a little later. This is not a spoiler or anything, but they do play Uncontrollable Urge by Devo, and I was very excited.
We'll get into that in a little bit too, because I got a note on that one. And so anyways, Corbin wants a quote from Nathan in response to Mayor Chisenhall's decision to move Big Larry, which Nathan had no idea about. So it immediately cuts to a scene of Nathan and Bobby storming into the mayor's office, and he's like, you can't move Big Larry. And he says the town charter is very clear. You have to commemorate the exact spot where the town was founded. That's history, Deidre. You can't change history unless you got a time machine. And then Bobby says, and you don't, because if you did, you'd go back in time and tell yourself to not buy that blazer.
Immediately sold on Bobby.
Yeah.
right? I was sold on him from the puppets part on.
Yeah, Bobby's very like
true, yeah.
bitchy to the mayor, and she like when they say that, the mayor's like looking at her blazer now, like questioning her style decisions. So that line did cut deep. And the mayor is played by Dana L. Wilson. And I looked her up. She was in a bunch of stuff. I guess the most notable thing you would have... I didn't watch Dexter, but I guess she was in a good amount of episodes of Dexter.
Wait, what?
The mayor.
I think she's only in the new Dexter, though.
Not
I
the new
wouldn't know.
Dexter, no. Because I just watched that. I don't remember her.
I haven't seen the new one. I didn't remember her from Dexter, but she may have been in for a short story arc. I haven't seen it since it was on TV.
What did you say
Yeah,
her name was?
Dana L. Wilson. But yeah, she tells him that it's a public safety issue at this point, and it's the fifth time someone's crashed into the statue since she's become mayor. But my only issue with that line was, I have no idea how long she's been mayor. So if she's been mayor for 10 years, that's not terrible. If she's been mayor for 2 months, then yeah, that's a little bit heavy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's a very good point, yeah. The amount of time versus the amount of time is kind of important in that equation.
Yeah, we're not getting a lot there. And then as he continues to go back and forth with her, she reminds him that this isn't a good time for people who love statues, as Joe, you said at the top of the episode. And he gives a very nervous, what? Like, he knows what she's getting at. And he's like, no, that's not the kind of statue we have here. Lawrence Rutherford was a hero. He brought people together. What do you guys think of that line? I thought that was very timely to put something like that in an episode.
I think it was a really stupid line to put in the episode for Joe's reasoning of like when they talk about when they talk about like Instagram and stuff on other shows, because if you watch the show in like 15 years, 20
It instantly
years,
dates itself. Yeah.
you
Right.
don't know, you don't get that joke.
And to be completely honest with you, it could be in 2 or 3 years. It might already be a point
Yeah.
where people forget that was such a thing.
But you could also make a reference to statues of people from that time might represent something that's not so much a great thing anymore, but not tie it to the exact moment you're in, right? Like,
Right,
there's
yeah,
ways of
yeah.
writing around that.
Yeah, I guess she could have easily said something like, this isn't the first time someone's, protested, taking a statue down of a, whatever, something along
Right,
those
yeah.
lines.
That's like the equivalent of being like, but there's a dancing version of him on TikTok. And you'd be like, oh, God.
Like when you say modern things.
It sounds so wrong coming out of my mouth whenever I say one of those words.
And he tells her that he respects her as someone whose family has been part of the town almost as long as his, which he reminds him that, like, and as the mayor, he's like, yeah, sure.
We
And
did a good, like, repartee back and forth.
right. And he says, like, let's sit down here and discuss this, over a roaring fire and a bottle of scotch. And then Bobby pulls his
So-
bottle out.
Here's the thing about this, too, because he seems really dismissive, right? But try to put yourself in his shoes. Like, put yourself in the town that's named after you, right?
He's rolling shit.
Exactly, right? So, regardless of how, state and city governments actually work, you probably would feel like you have some sort of privilege
Entitlement.
there, right? Exactly, yeah. So I guess I get where he's coming from. Like, if there was the town named after me, I owned a bunch of land in it, and the mayor's trying to tell me what to do, I feel like I might
Yeah.
be in the same position as he was.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to with him, it's not like at a place of, as much as it is entitlement and he doesn't really realize that, he just deeply cares about his family's history and the importance of it, and he's trying to preserve it, where, as we kind of find out, the rest of his family doesn't care as much as he does, so it's, he's kind of the only one keeping all this stuff alive.
Right.
So my whole thing is that the compromise that comes up later on that he accepts makes 100% sense and does everything, and I don't grasp why they just didn't do it, which is a problem with the show.
Well,
that I have,
we'll get
but-
into that in a few. I mean, I think it's obvious why they don't do it, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
I think the compromise is more work than just making the road go around it.
It's
Well-
not though.
We'll have to go. Yes.
Again, we're skipping a bit ahead,
Yeah,
so
we'll have
we'll
to
get into
to
that.
it. But
We'll
I'll
get to
explain
it.
why it's more work when we get to that part.
All right, but yeah. Then the mayor says that she can accept that you being the town's mascot means that you get to be a complete pain in my ass, but you have no real power. And I love that when she called him a mascot, Bobby just yells, "How dare you!" Again, it's that blind loyalty that Bobby has to Nathan.
I don't know
And he's a
why I love
teenager.
that character because of that. Like, there's something about him being so loyal to him makes him my favorite character.
then she says, well, you're welcome to plead your case at the town council meeting in 3 months. And he goes, oh, am I welcome to do that? Am I? That was the Andy thing.
That's very Andy, yeah.
That was the very awkward, when him and Erin broke up and he
just going to sit here and cry.
No, not even that one though. When he had the ex-boyfriend and girlfriend, when they came, he's like, oh, is that really awkward? Yeah. Yep. It was that was the moment it flagged in my memory immediately.
Won't get into it. I hate how much they bastardized his character in the end of that series though. They threw him
That seems to be everybody.
That's
super annoying. But the
last season was not good for Andy.
No. I definitely did get a glimpse of him. I would argue a bit too often in this show.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to not make the comparisons when it's an actor.
Whose fault is that? If I had not seen The Office, would I have felt that way? You know what I mean? So it's
right.
Up to the viewer.
And it's tough when the creator of this show is one of the main producers of The Office, so you're already drawing comparisons.
It's also created with him too, though, right? So you've got two people who are part of that show.
Right.
So I have a question, though. When she says in 3 months you can discuss it at the meeting, is that her way of saying it's getting moved now, so there's nothing you can do about it?
No, I think because I don't think it's as easy as just grabbing a crane anyway. So I just think that they must have
take 3 months to even discuss moving it at that point. So
where it's gonna go,
just slow city government movement, I guess.
Yeah. I do love the gag of this too. I always laugh at when somebody brings in a bottle to try to bribe somebody and it doesn't work and they take the bottle back.
Well, can't waste it.
Too.
Yeah, I totally get it. You just grab the fuck off. I paid, and I don't know, if you're gonna buy a bottle of bourbon or scotch or something as somebody, you're probably spending a good amount of money on it. You're not gonna drop off a bottle of Jim Beam or something,
It's funny too because what he suggested, let's sit down by a roaring fire and discuss this over a glass of scotch is just so 1800s of him. He obviously lives in the now, but he is still driven by, I feel his the way his ancestors did.
Yeah,
things.
he romanticizes that time period.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yep.
From somebody who lives in the now, loves whiskey, and romanticizes a time period gone by. That reminds me of somebody.
Is that Joe Rutherford?
Greg Rutherford.
It's also Scotch. Scotch is gross. I don't like Scotch.
Scotch is gross.
Within that realm, that family of liquor, my least favorite, I guess. Yeah, so then we cut to Regan on her way to make her presentation, and she walks by a couple of the people who work at the casino who are mocking her and calling her a kiss ass, and she tells them it's nice to have support of her community. And actually, I'll be completely honest, I didn't really realize that she was Native American herself, even though it's painfully obvious. I didn't really click with me until she said that to them.
No, yeah, I got that right when she was rehearsing her monologue thing, is because it was always the we and stuff like that. She was including herself in those.
I mean, obviously, like I said, it was very obvious when you look back, but for whatever reason, that was the light bulb moment when I actually finally realized that she was Native American herself.
I mean, the fact that she ran the Native American Senate should have told you.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, like I said,
it's a bit of a tip.
It's it was very obvious at all times, but for whatever reason, I just didn't think about it, I guess, until that moment.
You just don't see color, Jay. Good for you.
Yes.
And, he sees color in his real rabbit's foot, though.
We'll get it. Listen, I don't want to repeat an argument that we had in last week's episode, but
I'm going to repeat it.
I've shown, we debated rabbit's feet and whether or not they're authentic or not, and there is a lot of evidence proving my point is right.
No,
but anyways,
there just isn't.
There isn't a lot of proving it wrong.
No. There is one article that kind of says you might be right. I did more extensive research than you did, and I said...
you went on eBay and looked for old rabbit's feet.
What did you do? You didn't do anything. I'm just saying.
I was at work. But anyways,
if you find yours, Jay, and it looks like a terrifying Stephen King foot, I'll believe it was a real rabbit's
you gotta go
foot.
find it.
Aside from that,
just follow the smell of your rotting fucking foot.
Well, you have it. You don't throw away anything.
I've gone through a lot of stuff recently, and I haven't found one, so I don't know if I ever kept one of those around. But in any event, we can only have so many rabbit's foot conversations, especially where it's not actually pertinent to this episode.
That's not actually a rabbit's foot.
So anyways, we'll move on. So now Regan's in Terry Thomas's office. He's played by Michael Greyeyes, and I was looking at his IMDb.
Sexy name.
Yeah, And he was in
Yeah, that's an amazing last name.
he was in
Yeah, it is.
so much stuff. A couple things that I noted were Walker Texas Ranger, and he was in
Yep.
Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. But
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I didn't even catch that one. He was in
I
a
immediately
lot.
thought of Ferg. I was like, he was in Are You Afraid of the Dark episode. Like, he played the shaman, but I can't remember the episode.
Oh.
Yeah, he was in a ton of stuff. And
Unfortunately, he was not in Mantis.
shucks. As she's giving her presentation, we see a pie chart of most common reasons people currently visit the cultural center. And I wrote them down because I did think it was a pretty good, like, for the props department, they did a good job with this one. Think that it's a gift shop, 70%. To recharge their phones, 20%. To complain that the slot machines treat them unfairly, 5%. To learn about Menishanka culture, 3%. Looking to escape out the back, 2%.
It's a good breakdown right there.
Killed it.
Again, I thought it was pretty good of the props department. Good little eye for detail there. They could have kind of skimmed it and just left the chart and not had all the extra wording, but it's the details like
I
that.
appreciate the specificity.
And it's details like that make us number one.
Us
right?
number one?
Us number one. We
Us-
pay attention to the details.
No, things like that make us, the props department at Rutherford Falls, number one. But yeah, as she's doing her presentation, she also apologized for getting sweaty, which happens to her when she's confident, she says. And she also
I'm
tells
confident
them
all the time.
Yeah. She also tells them that what's the purpose of all this profit if we're not going to invest back into the tribe? And he's like, we put $4 million towards language preservation, early childhood education, and the women's shelter. Are you suggesting we cut those budgets for your project? And she's like, oh no, wow, that's really cool that we do that.
I like how she didn't even know that those programs existed.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't. Maybe it's just like a fluff piece that, like, from a corporate, department. But I can't imagine it wouldn't.
Oh, he was too quick with that answer.
Right. It's just funny that
for it to be fake. Like,
for a girl that's like in charge of the cultural center for the Menishanka tribe, you think she would know that like $4 million from the casino is going to those things
Yeah, I
annually.
think that's the irony in the conversation.
I
And
think just has her like blinders on, right? Like she's so concentrating on her one thing that she doesn't even realize that they are doing so much around her.
Right.
you
right.
know?
Well, I mean, it's kind of she's kind of being blinded by him too. Not him. What is his name? Nathan? Andy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nathan, yeah. We can just call him Andy.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's kind of forcing the focus on a specific, time and area and stuff like that.
They say that later in the episode too, and I disagree because he equally helps her. Those weren't the charts he made for her and stuff weren't just a little bit of work. That was a lot of work went into all that stuff.
Yeah. I would say
Like-
that the thing that really unites them is that they're equally passionate. They're on different sides of what's going on, where his is his family's history and hers is with the Menishankas.
By the way, I stepped away for a minute, so apologies if I missed this. Did the sign making thing at all really give you a Leslie Knope vibe?
She would have had a binder.
Because
Yeah.
I'm getting like the really like the really anal, the really I can't think of the words I'm looking for, but like she's just constantly trying to do these things, and I'm getting what the sign thing is what maybe because she always had sign maids on Parks and
The
Rec,
banners
so
and
like and
signs,
stuff
yeah.
like that. But
She had a banner
I'm
guy.
getting huge Leslie Knope vibes from Nathan, and I feel like those characters are very very close to each other.
I can see it when you say it. It wasn't something that occurred to me in the moment, but as you say it, I can definitely see where those comparisons would be drawn.
I'd have to see a little more of them, but I like
Yeah,
Jay
that's a
said,
good point,
I
too,
could see where you're getting it.
And then, anyways, he asks her to cut to the chase. Like, how much is this all going to cost? And she tells him that's going to cost $650,000. And I like that when he responds, he's like, that's just too much money. And for that reason, I'm out. And she's like, is this Shark Tank? Like,
Because I thought it before she said it.
Exactly.
I'm glad they went that way with it.
Exactly.
I appreciate that as someone who's just discovered Shark Tank. I know it's been around forever, but I've been binging the shit out of it.
oh, it's a
You're
perfect.
so
lucky to
weird
find it
show to
now with, like
binge.
17 seasons to watch all the way through.
It's a very easy just, this happens to be on TV. I can still like dick around on my phone and just have this on in the background. It's like, it's great for that stuff. And then he does offer her a position to be part of his Running Lightning project, which he said is his boldest initiative yet. And then he hands her like a chart, which is just like I forget what that kind of chart is called, but it's just an arrow pointing up.
This is like a projection arrow at a
Yeah.
90-degree
Yeah.
angle.
I love how simple that was. My first like real like laugh in the whole episode.
Yeah, that got me
Like,
because
it made
there's
me-
not a single word on that piece of paper.
It's just
Yeah,
his
there's no
con- his-
context.
His confidence when he shows it to her, and like he doesn't say any words, but he's dead serious. Fuck it got me.
It's very
then,
Simpsons, like Homer Simpson drawing out a plan that's like a stick figure and then a plus sign and then a money bag. Like that's what this basically turned into.
Yeah. She declines it at first and says that the cultural center is her focus, but then also kind of transitions to like, when would I start? And he's like, when Grandmother Bluecorn sings in that old way. And she's like, that stuff's not going to work on me. He's like, 3 to 5 years.
And she's like, I'm not a white tourist.
Yeah.
That goes back to your Parks and Rec thing about the chief there, how
Yeah,
he can
just-
manipulate the white people.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah. I forgot they had that storyline too. I forgot about that.
And then in the next scene, we have Nathan, who's on the phone with his brother, saying that he's in a knife fight with Chisenhall, and tells him to go to the pantry where there's a crack in the molding behind the spice rack and to push on it. And that's where you see there's a secret compartment. And apparently he's hid documents all over the house, and they're in locations on a need-to-know basis.
That house is nice, but it's like too old and too dark where I don't think I could live there and be comfortable.
Yeah, it's. I feel like you get like the Munsters vibe from it almost. Like it's just old and rickety.
The
It
brother's
is,
house
like,
or where Nathan lives?
The brother's house.
Brother's house.
Really?
Brothers.
And
I didn't
it's
get
like,
enough
dark
of the
business
dining
where
room.
it feels like light can't penetrate it.
Exactly. Yeah,
It
everything's
has
just like this.
secret panels. It's the coolest thing ever.
Oh, I
Yeah.
agree. I would live in this
The
house,
panels
like,
are
but I'm
sweet.
just saying, like, it's not probably my preferred.
It's weird. I didn't like think much of the house, and I don't think I got a good enough look of it to really think about it.
I mean, you see the dining room that his brother's kids are in,
Yeah.
and they're yelling at him for swearing, and it's just like this huge, like vaulted ceiling, mahogany wall. Like it's very obvious that he's just living there. You know, like he didn't pick this house to live in.
And yeah, because you mentioned that the kids are yelling at him for swearing, because after he grabs this file, he says, listen, if you're going to pull some national treasure shit in my kitchen, I need to know. And that's when they're like, Dad, no swearing. And so then he tells his brother that they're trying to move Big Lair. He's kind of like, oh, was there another accident? He's like, that's not important. And his brother does. That's what he calls him, does, D-U-Z. But he's actually the namesake of Lawrence. So he's actually Lawrence Rutherford, the whatever. But I guess they just call him Does. And anyways,
He was in Masters of Sex for a while. I don't know if you guys ever watched that show.
Masters of Sex.
Yeah, it's Lizzie Kaplan, who was in like Mean Girls and God, why can't I think of the name of the show where they're all waiters? That's hilarious. Party Down.
Oh, right. Okay.
There was like a Showtime show about like this doctor who was like studying sex or whatever. And he was on it for a bit.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing, to be completely
It's a
honest
good
with
show.
you.
It's worth watching.
Maybe we'll cover it one day. Is it sitcom-y?
No, it's like a Showtime, like hour long.
Oh,
There's
maybe
some
we'll never
comedy, but
cover it.
It's like a sex drama. We're not going to cover that.
Nope, no sex. Until we do a spin-off show. S1E1.
A sex drama spinoff? Oh, come on. We need a Patreon so badly.
Yeah, so then his brother does. He tells Nathan that, you know, you've been living in this town a little too long, and I think you're starting to get tunnel vision. Nathan's like, you know, since you're my elder and you carry the namesake, I respect your opinion, so I'll do whatever you think is right. And that's when his brother's like, I think you should let them move the statue. He's like, well, I cannot do that.
That was very Andy for me, by the way.
Yeah, the quick reaction from him.
The
absolutely.
quick reaction and the disagreement, it just felt very Andy.
That's
Yeah.
him punching the wall and going, that was an overreaction. Like, that's what that was right there.
Also, you know it kills Nathan that the brother is named after.
Oh,
the-
for sure,
yeah.
probably.
Which
Yeah,
is
that he's
also
not the
another
namesake.
Bernard issue because his
Yep.
brother, who was played by Josh
Groban.
Groban,
Yeah.
was the real junior, even though they named Andy that first.
Yeah, even though Andy was the junior originally, and then they just
Yeah.
thought that his brother had the more embodied the namesake. Was it Walter?
I think it was Walter, yeah.
Yeah.
No more shows with office characters. This is too confusing.
Well, you know
know.
what?
Yeah.
Well, you know what though? I think we keep comparing him to Andy all the time, but I think what we have to realize is that maybe it's just that's Ed Helms.
That's just
and
Ed
let's-
Helms. I agree, yeah.
And I think when you
I'm
when you
noticing
look
a
at-
trend now with a lot of these actors.
Yeah, I mean that happens. You know, especially when you're in like more sitcom roles and not super dramas and stuff like that, where you're playing a completely wild character. You know, he's playing Nathan Rutherford and Andy Bernard. He's not playing Abraham Lincoln. You know, so you're creating these characters from yourself a little bit when you do that stuff.
Because we're all
Can we remake that movie without Daniel Day-Lewis and have him
Gabe
play
plays
Abraham Lincoln?
Lincoln.
I would love that.
Wasn't he Abraham Lincoln in that movie? Daniel Day-Lewis? He actually played Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, I said we should remake
Yeah.
it and replace the Daniel
Oh,
Day-Lewis scenes
oh,
with Ed Helms.
Oh, I completely missed what you said. I thought you
we
said we
just-
should get Daniel Day-Lewis to play Abraham Lincoln.
He'd be a great Lincoln.
I'd rather
So,
watch Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
What about Ed Helms Vampire Hunter? Why can't we split the difference?
I would
here?
watch. Yeah,
I'd watch that.
we'll call Ed Helms. But yeah, and so now in the next scene, we have Nathan and Regan are sitting at a bar together, and they're both venting about their respective issues, both feeling like their dreams are pretty much dead. And Nathan tells her that she didn't receive a full no, so her dreams aren't dead; they're more like in a coma, which she's like is somehow worse. And
Those lamps that are in that bar, I forget what they're like. I don't know what they're called. That kind of lamp, but they just bring me to like a weird happy place. Those like glass bar lamps that are usually
Oh,
over,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
with
yeah.
The
tables.
stained glass lamps, like the
Yeah.
Tiffany lamps.
Tiffany lamps. Is that what they're called? Yeah.
I think so. Like the ones with the
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, Tiffany
I was
lamps.
distracted this whole scene just staring at them, being like, I just want to be in a room illuminated by that. It's just
Fucking
so
Brick
cool. Like-
Tamlin.
Oh yeah, I fucking didn't pick up on that.
And so they continue to try to boost each other's spirits. And Nathan reminds Regan that they've both dreamed of owning a museum together since they were both kids. And she adds, yeah, and by the time I had gotten back from 2 masters and come home, you had a museum. He's like, and you will too. You know, I think Nathan inherently is a nice guy, but he doesn't know how like entitled he is. Like he's blind to it.
Yeah, and this is also the scene too where I figured that they were going to be a romantic couple at some point. This is where you can kind of see that.
See, I didn't really get that
budding.
vibe there. I think, if anything, I thought that line really shows the divide between the two of them. And it wasn't even done in like a very serious way, but she does mention like, listen, you know, this was our dream together. And then I went and I got 2 masters and came back and you were just handed one because of your last name.
Well, how entitled is she that she went out and just gloating about her 2 masters?
Well, she earned
She
those.
probably went to college for free.
Depending on what tribe she's in, that might be the case, I guess. You do have,
Or what college? I guess.
yeah, it depends where you
I
go.
feel like we're treading in a pool.
Yeah,
here
I don't
for-
know. I don't.
Bad thing.
No, it's not. I don't know enough about the
Joe's
situation to say
making
specifically.
faces at me like I said something racist.
I don't know.
No.
That just seems
No,
like
there
we're,
are-
like,
yeah, there are-
on a borderline.
No, there are
here.
programs for Native American stuff. I don't know enough about them to speak on behalf of it, but yeah, there are things like that exist. And so they both go over their plans, and he says that he's gonna get this town on his side and fight for his family's legacy. And she says she's gonna wait 3 to 5 years for Terry to launch a project that he didn't totally specify. And he's like, "Oh, playing the long game, smart." In the meantime, can you help me do
Add
my
an
thing?
extension to his thing. If they added an extension to the already existing museum, then she can have her museum.
Well, I don't think they're separate things. I guess it's like when they talked about why didn't they make a statue for the Menishanka? Like, he acknowledges that it's the right thing to do, but he's really more
It's
concerned
not what they
about the
want, yeah.
Rutherfords. Yeah.
Copper's not expensive anymore, or brass, whatever. It is.
Yeah, so now we cut to this montage of Nathan with Regan's help talking to people in the town, writing articles, doing interviews, basically creating a narrative for the whole town that it's an us against them type of thing with the statue moving. And then the song playing during it is Uncontrollable Urge by Devo, like Joe mentioned earlier. And I even wrote in my notes, sorry, Joe, because I can't hear this song anymore without thinking of Ridiculousness on MTV, which is a show that you might not be aware even exists.
No idea what that is.
So basically, Rob Dyrdek, do you know
I
who he
hate
is?
Rob Dyrdek.
Do you know who Rob
Skateboarder?
Dyrdek is? Yeah, he's a skateboarder, and then he had Robin Big and Fantasy Factory and all these shows on MTV. He
Class
basically
School.
hosts his own America's Funniest Home Videos now. And
The
it's
wannabe
on,
Tosh.0.
yeah, and it's on MTV 90% of the
I'd
time.
watch Rob Dyrdek before Tosh.0 any day, by the way.
I'm not on that
no
same
way.
train. but-
I can't stand Daniel Tosh.
But yeah,
he's
so-
insufferable.
So not to get into a giant debate, yeah, I find Rob Dyrdek to be a little insufferable. So because
Me
that
too.
song is the theme song to his America's Funniest Home Videos of sorts,
Oh, that's a bummer.
when I hear the song, I go, ugh. Like, so I couldn't take
Great
it for what
song,
it was.
though.
It is a good song, but
How
it's
come
ruined.
you're not wearing your hat, Joe?
You mean my energy dome?
Yeah, it's not a
I
hat,
get it.
Ferg.
Illusion, Dad.
Of course, it's right next to him, too. He's going to get it.
You can talk about Devo and not have our Devo expert wear his energy dome.
It is true. I mean, for those of you who are familiar with
go.
our logo,
There we go.
Joe's cartoon in the logo we use, he's wearing the Devo Energy Dome. So it's only appropriate that in a show that actually uses a Devo song that Joe does wear it for a moment.
I also knocked over so many things getting this off my shelf.
Do you find when you wear it that there's an influx of energy going into your dome?
I do, yeah. It really goes back into the medulla oblongata.
Oh, perfect.
Is there any science
That
behind the
controls
energy
the
dome?
rage. Are you angry?
There's like fake science that they created.
Okay, but they
There's,
did
like,
create some
mythical-
sort of lore for it. That's all right. I didn't because
Yeah,
I don't know
they have
anything
like a
about
lore
it.
for
yeah.
it that it does a thing. It's supposed to take the energy instead of leaving and escaping your head, that it like recycles it back in, sort of thing. But it's just like, for lulz.
Right. To get back to this montage, towards the end of it, we get this woman in like a cowboy hat and denim vest who's standing in front of her motorcycle, yell across the street to Nathan, who's cheering him on and saying like, "Yeah, let's take back our country." And he's like excited.
I love that he doesn't get what's
Yeah,
happening.
he doesn't know
there.
where she stands on other politics, I guess I would say. And you just see Regan have to go, "Take it back from who? Ew." Just
I love
walks
the
off.
ew.
And then we get a new scene where Regan's sitting at a table at the casino buffet, I assume, working on her laptop. And the two employees from earlier who were kind of giving her shit are giving her shit again now for helping Nathan out. And she says they help each other, and they tell her that it's more like Captain America and Hawkeye, where she would be Hawkeye, and she's the lame one with no powers. Ferg, do you have any-
Hawkeye is great.
I was going to say, I wanted to cut it to Ferg and see if he had any insight on this, where they say that it's Captain America versus Hawkeye.
Hawkeye's great, but comparatively, think about it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Captain America beat the Nazis.
He beat Hydra.
Hydra, Nazis. I mean, they're the same shit.
The
I
same
mean,
thing.
he did punch Hitler in the face, but
Does he do that in the new movies? I've literally only ever seen the 1990
No, in the new
Captain America
movies,
movie.
he becomes incredibly selfish and almost destroys
Don't
the entire
fucking
universe.
start.
Oh God, Jay's wrong. Joe, you remember how you've talked about how you just decide that you don't like things before you even give them a chance? You're doing
Yes.
that with these. Just go watch them.
No, I want to see the Captain America ones.
No, like all
my
of
whole
them.
thing
Watch
with
them. You got about 6 months of watching. to do.
Unfortunately, you
Yeah.
kind of have to watch the 80,000 hours of movie for these.
That's why I won't do it. I want to see Captain America because I especially heard the first one takes place like in the 40s, and it's really.
it's easily the worst one.
I
Yes.
liked it, but
I just
not
don't want to
everyone
watch
does.
like Avengers and 16
I'm not
other
saying it's a
movies
bad
first.
movie. I just think it's the worst one out of them. And Winter Soldier, I think, is probably the best Marvel movie, period.
Could I watch all the Captain America movies without watching all the other cinematic
Not
universe
really.
movies and get it?
No.
You could watch.
Then it'll never
You could
happen.
watch Captain America. You could watch Winter Soldier. You couldn't watch Civil War and understand what's going on.
the problem is, and sorry to those of you listening, and I promise we'll get
Everybody's
past
a
this real
fan.
quick.
We're not
Yeah.
upsetting anyone.
But the thing is,
Most people watch these movies. I
When
just
it-
won't commit to 70
yeah,
fucking
when it
movies.
comes to the Captain America movies specifically, those ones most closely tie into the Avengers movies because they kind of become one and the same in a way, where Captain America and Avengers movies kind of become the same thing more
well,
so.
Civil War was basically an Avengers movie that
Yeah.
they didn't call an Avengers movie, but
So more so than the other characters, but yeah, you kind of have to watch a bit of it to get. Just watch the first one if you want, see if you like it. Maybe that style of movie does it for you, and you want to watch more.
I'll watch the first one. I'll report back.
But yeah, to go back to the actual conversation, I understand what they're saying. Hawkeye, comparatively to Captain America, is not a fair, as far as equal in stature and popularity and glory and all that stuff.
Did anybody else get an office thing from this too? I know that Jay, you might have thought of this, but there's the scene where Andy is driving in the car with Michael Scott, and he's making fun of Dwight, and Michael Scott just goes, "Hawkman." It's like all I could think of this entire scene.
I didn't think of that at the time, actually.
Hawkeye
Surprisingly.
doesn't need glory. He just does his job.
She actually says that she's more the one with the fire circles, who I believe
I
she's
don't know
referencing.
who she meant. Did
I think she means Doctor Strange. Yeah, Doctor
All right.
Strange. I wrote it down. I was like, she has to mean Doctor Strange.
It's the only thing I can think of because he does the portals. But
Yeah. It has a fiery trail to
I
them.
do like
and-
calling that fire circles, though.
Yeah. And it was enough that I got what she meant, and he's like a smart one. It all kind of lines up. And they tell her to have fun while Captain America takes all the glory.
But like again, though, it's not one side. He helps her out too. He pep talks her to go to the thing.
Right. I don't think
like,
they see that.
Supports her dream, and like the way they make it out, and it gets to her. It's like that he's just selfish and she's doing everything for him, and I don't get any of that from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think it's because of his ignorance towards his entitlement and stuff. So it's not that he's a bad guy, but like we said before, while she was off getting multiple degrees, he was just given a museum because of his namesake, things like that.
There's a degree of affluence there that, I mean, I feel like you can't give him a full pass. Like, there is a life outside of what he's doing, and he's just ignoring it to stay there. So, I mean, any ignorance at a certain point is his fault.
Right, but I don't think his ignorance comes with any type of like malice, which I think is the important part. And so it does flash to later in that night, and Regan is at Nathan's house, and she starts talking to him about how she thinks he should move the statue. So obviously he's a little taken back by that, and he says that this is like their history, and that's when she corrects him and says like, this isn't our history, it's your history. And that he's stirring up all this weird stuff by doing all this like door-to-door stuff, and that crazy Debbie's on his side, who thinks Bill Gates is a lizard wearing a human suit, which...
Shout out to Matt.
And I was going to say, it's funny because as wild of an example as that is, that's not far from what a lot of people believe. And if you're listening to our episode and follow that, thanks for listening. And I will not further delve into how I feel about that stuff.
I don't judge you.
I, for one, welcome our alien overlords.
He's basically just afraid of people forgetting about his family's legacy. And he thinks if the statue's moved, like that says a lot about how much people care about, the history. And that's when Regan explains to him that that's how she feels about her culture every single day. Which that did seem to resonate with him. He did seem to understand her point there.
That sucks.
And it's a fair point. It's a
very fair point. Yeah, and I feel like it checked him a little bit.
Yeah, I think he just never really thought of it from that perspective.
It didn't just check him; it wrecked him.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
But this is you guys referenced it a lot earlier when you talk about the proposed idea. That's when she says, how about we just move the statue to where the museum's at, and then where the statue was before, we just put a flat medallion in the road so it'll commemorate the exact spot where the original deal happened. And she tells him that, you can just make another video now, one that you actually get to play yourself and have it all about your decision to move the statue and how noble that was. He's like,
this is simpler than building a rotary, but I still like the rotary idea better.
I don't think that's more simple, because you have to, move the statue now. Then you still got to tear up road with this, like, to build, like, the road to go across where the statue was. You have to put a medallion in the ground. It would be less work to go from where the road is and just build a small rotary going around it.
This isn't the ancient Egyptians doing it, Ferg. Like, they can take a crane and they can just move it. Like, it just bulldoze it, and it's probably done in, like, a month.
I was going to say, it's probably a few days. You move the statue, and then there's like
it's
a little...
city workers, so...
It takes a few days to build a road.
Well, you don't have to build a road if you just replace the statue with a medallion, and you have like the hole in the road that you just put a big medallion in.
Again, that's more work.
Well, I guess we'll all have to agree to disagree on this one. I personally am under the belief that maybe the medallion idea is a little easier, but... yeah, I mean, either way, whether it be your method or this one, there are easy solutions to make this not a problem where people drive into this all the time.
Well, he can use that time machine he brought up earlier and not build the road there.
I think they should just make like a Hot Wheels thing where instead of going around, you just get a big loop-de-loop that goes over the statue.
That's probably the easiest
really
of all the
answers.
Badass. But yeah, when she proposes the filming of a new like video where he gets to be himself, he's like, we'll film it at dawn as the sun is cresting over Big Larry like a halo, and his spirit will emerge. And in his mind, the spirit of Lawrence will come from the statue and then shake Nathan's hand and thank him. And his mind's definitely running away with him a little bit. So
that's very Andy again.
Like, a little bit. I didn't think too much there, but I can see what you're saying.
They stroking his ego and then getting him excited about a project because it involves him.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, like you said, there are very simple solutions, which is funny because like this whole show is based around this statue. and the moving or not moving of the statue. So yes, there are simple fixes, but I guess if we did that and we we wouldn't have much to talk about. So I guess they have to just ignore that and go with this stuff.
The statue is this show's pit.
Yeah, you know what? It really is. And that's a reference to Parks and Rec for those of you who don't get it. So now we cut to Founders Day and we see some establishing shots of like carnival games and concessions, and there's like a bounce house. And then Nathan takes the podium and starts to give a speech about how change is inherently Rutherfordian. It's, because Lawrence Rutherford changed the name of the town 6 times before he landed on what they have now. He was originally going to name it after his brother Horace, but when you say that out loud, it sounds like Horseville. So with all that in mind, he's decided to change his mind too, and the statue will be moved. So this is his big speech that he's so proud of, and he thinks he's going to get all this adulation from it. And the reaction is not what he expected. And that's when people are saying things like, good, can we focus on the problems that are actually important? And he's like, well, Big Larry is important. More important than the opioid crisis. He's like, apples and oranges.
Apples and oranges, Carla.
Yeah.
Something about adding the person's name made that so much funnier. I laughed consistently through this entire scene. Yeah, and then someone else recommends that they refurbish him, which is a reasonable idea, and he was okay with that. He said refurbishing, not resculpting. And then some girls like, screw that, we should get a new statue. That thing's like 1 billion years old. What about like Jenna Marbles, who I thought that was a weird reference because I'm sure
she canceled herself.
She did, but I was going to say, how many of you are even, Joe, you definitely don't know who Jenna Marbles is. Gordo, do you?
No fucking clue.
Yeah, I know who Jenna Marbles
I was going to say, I barely know. I've never watched one of her videos.
Wife actually introduced me to Jenna Marbles.
Really?
She's a YouTuber.
Yeah, she's like
she's
YouTuber.
from here, though. I've met her before, too.
Oh, she's from here?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, no, she's from New York. I'm just looking her up now.
Here.
She went to Suffolk, though, and BU.
Okay.
Suffolk and BU.
What did she get canceled for?
She just
crazy.
decided that her older videos were too offensive, so she took them down, put on this big video of her crying, and then canceled herself and quit YouTube.
Oh.
So she wasn't canceled, but she canceled herself.
I remember seeing something about it.
Doesn't sound that bad.
But I don't know her well enough. I never really watched any of her videos. But anyways, yeah, it was suggested that the statue is made of Jenna Marbles or her dog, the girl said. Because her dog has like 2,000 followers on Instagram.
Marbles.
I mean, that is quite an achievement for a dog.
I guess. And you know what? I would
People
love to have
put so much time into Instagram accounts for their pets.
Matilda won't let me make a Bluestagram for our cat Blue.
Good.
But when I do because I will be getting a small dog at some point soon. Mr. Crackers is his name. Will be his name. So I will make an Instagram for the future Mr. Crackers.
Okay. Well,
I feel like it's one of those things when you scroll through somebody's Instagram and then like they friend you and you feel obligated to follow it back or whatever, and you're going through and you're like, yeah, your dog's in the snow anyway. Like it's just one of those things you're like politely like, okay.
Well,
do any of you have Instagrams for your pets?
No. Listen, when you get one, we can plug that on here. But in the meantime, let's plug our Instagram, which is S1E1 Pod. So be sure to go there and follow us on Instagram. But yeah, moving on. And that's when, like, now he's starting to get a little nervous. Nathan's like, people, we're not going to move Big Larry. I'm sorry. He says, moving Big Larry is what's on the table, not replacing him. This is the heart and soul of the town. And then a woman in the crowd by the name of Bonnie stands up and tells the story of Juanita Cordova, who went into labor on her way to Albany. She couldn't wait and gave birth to a daughter in Rutherford Falls. That little girl would become TV superstar Linda Carter. And he's like, there is zero proof that it's that Linda Carter. Someone named Linda Carter was born in Rutherford Falls. That's all they know.
The real Linda Carter was born in Arizona, I believe.
I don't think Rutherford Falls exists.
Although we couldn't remember where it was
Arizona.
In the scene, she says they were on their way to Albany. We probably could have tracked it from there.
That is, well, we don't know how far. Maybe they were starting in Florida.
That's true, I guess, right? Like, if you're going to San Francisco from Boston, you're still on your way to San Francisco.
Exactly.
Maybe they started in Springfield.
And then This is when the mayor comes up and he's hoping that she's going to back him up a little bit here with all this craziness. And she just goes, I respect the voices of my constituents, and walks away again. So everyone in the town
politician.
Right, typical. And then everyone in the town keeps chiming in, and Nathan is starting to lose his patience. And this is when he finally snaps, and he's telling them all to shut up,
Before that, though, I think the funniest line of this is, and this I was like, this is one of those like, did Ferg laugh at this? I feel like he did. Where somebody was like, in 100 years, I don't care about Big Larry now. And then in the background, very faintly, you just hear somebody go, Big Larry sucks. I fucking lost it so hard.
Yes.
Like, it's so clearly ADR'd, and they so clearly spent the time to, like, lower the volume and make sure that it was just sort of hidden. That's so funny.
And, so like I said, this is when he snaps. He's like, shut up, shut your stupid pie holes. And he tells them all that they don't get it. They're not getting it because we know how important that's to them. And then he says, a bunch of years ago, Lawrence Rutherford wrote and signed a legally binding agreement with the Menashankas, and that's why this town exists. He says that's why all of you exist. He says Lawrence Rutherford is our forefounder. He's our Adam and Eve, our Tigris and Euphrates. And that statue, which sits on my family's land, commemorates all that he gave us. And if you don't get that, well, you're just an ungrateful boob. I think it was really telling, though, when he said my family's land. That was like
that's the line.
That's the line that, like, that's when everyone, ooh, okay. That's when he takes a little bit of a turn and he becomes a less likable character in that moment.
So I'm starting to believe that this legally binding agreement doesn't exist, because he could have used that to say, this is legal, you can't move the statue.
Right, well, I think a lot of that gets touched on later. I think that
part of my problem with this.
So he also...
Well, that's going to be a longer than episode 1 problem, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
We cover episode 1, and that's where I am now.
Yeah.
That's true.
He also says that now he's not going to move Big Larry, and that if anyone disagrees, they can burn in hell. Which is quite the reaction. And when Regan tries to get him off stage, he says, okay, no, but I'm not done telling these people that they're wrong and stupid.
It's such a beautifully epic freak out.
Yeah, he just lost it at that point. And like at first you get it because he was so excited and proud about this moment and thought he was doing this big noble gesture by moving the statue. And then like it's his biggest fear, right? It's just about his family's legacy living on. And that's what he's concerned about because no one seems to care. Like the rest of his family doesn't even care. So this means so much to him. So to see that no one in this town cares about Big Larry or anything, something that's so important to him, it's what really makes him snap.
It makes me wonder what made him care so much. If no one in the town does, where he grew up in this town with these people, his own family doesn't care. So who bestowed all that onto him? That
I just think he latched onto it. It was just something in his family's. It's just like anything else. Some people are just more proud of that stuff than others, and it was there.
If his family doesn't care either, like they wouldn't have been like showing him.
Well, his siblings don't. Like we don't know like where his parents sat on stuff like that. We just know that when it came down to like the next generation, he was the one who seemed to care the most.
He's also a small town guy in his 40s with no significant other, no kids. Like I think that this is just like a clutching at straws. I need to feel like I'm important, or something's meaningful in my life.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And during this freak out, we see Terry Thomas, the owner of the casino, and he's one of the people just like sitting there. And as this concludes, he gets on the phone and tells his assistant to call an emergency board meeting. And then we cut to Nathan and Regan later that night, and he's still kind of in denial about how bad that was, and they're both just kind of hoping it will blow over, which then cuts...
He says if you read it as a transcript, a lot of...
Yeah.
He's still defending that.
It cuts to his brother reading through that folder that Nathan had him pull out of the wall earlier, and he just goes like, oh shit. And I think this goes back to what we were saying a few minutes ago about like, is there really a legally binding contract? And I think as he's rereading these things, I'm under the impression, because they don't tell you what happens, I'm under the impression that his brother found something in these folders that would tell you otherwise, that they don't have the ownership that they think that they have.
I wonder what made his brother actually read all the documents if he doesn't care.
Well,
he's probably just still helping his brother out.
Yeah.
Especially after, too, we're going to see that this goes kind of viral. So he saw his brother do a freak out. So he's probably looking to try to help him bail him out a little bit.
Yeah, that could be part of it, too. And then we also cut to an office in the big city where a woman who I'm assuming is a sister works, and she sees like the video of Nathan freaking out. That was like the introduction to her character. It's just kind of a quick blow by. And then we see another person reading it online, and it was a reporter, I guess. They don't really show you much at that time, but we find out a little bit later on
or something. That's the idea I got.
And that's when
Ted from Schitt's Creek.
After he sees the story online, he's asking about the town itself. From there, we cut to the emergency board meeting that Terry called, and he starts by telling everyone that years ago this land was a metropolis of longhouses. Indigenous people had complete autonomy along the eastern seaboard. And then later he mentions how Nathan Rutherford really stepped in it, and while he feels really bad for the guy, it's opened a door of opportunity for them, and they have to walk through it. And now it's time to launch Operation Running Lightning. And everyone on the board opens their binders that gets passed out. And one woman who's there starts to read it. And then she also says, oh, shit. So I think the information that he's dispensing on all of them is similar to whatever Nathan's brother read when he's looking through his folder. That was how that episode ended, except they have a this season on, which shows you a bunch of stuff coming up in the future episodes, which I guess it depends, like...
Did they Arrested Development us?
Yeah, like it's weird. Like things like that are for new series happen a lot sometimes in the first episode, but like they could be good or bad, right? It's showing you a lot of what happens in the future. I even struggled with like, do we count this? Like, is this part of the episode?
I don't count it.
This is my. When we get to the green light at cancel, I'll say why that bugged me.
All right.
And,
yeah, we talk sometimes about this sort of stuff, and I just don't think, like, HBO will do it, right, for a new show, because HBO still goes week to week on shows.
Right.
So they'll do, like, a next week on, or, like, a this season on, to get you to be enticed to come back next week.
Yeah.
But for a show on a streaming platform that all came out the same day, it just seems superfluous.
Yeah. It was like you saw the first episode. If you want to keep watching, you're going to keep watching at that point.
Yeah, you either are or you aren't at that point. It's probably not going to change your mind.
Yeah, but...
that cliffhanger didn't get you. It's not, you're not going to keep
Right,
watching.
and I think that's... I really do think that's where it should have ended. So it is tough to, like, do we include it, do we not? But I guess for argument's sake, because if you are watching episode 1 along with us or watched it in preparation to listen to us, you would have seen it too. So I guess a couple of the big points are we see that the tribe is going to sue Nathan. We see that Regan has an opportunity to join Terry in his efforts. And we also see that the reporter that had saw about the town enters the town, and there might be a love interest between him and Regan. So those are a couple of the things that get flagged, and those are all the teasers for the rest of the season. But really, it ends with the oh shit. But it's tough to ignore that after seeing it right after. So I guess we have to include it, at least mention it.
Yeah, I would say mention it, but I wouldn't let it. I wouldn't use it as any leverage on what your decision is on the first episode.
I was going to say, do we use that as leverage?
Like I was able to take I wasn't able. I looked at that. I didn't look at that scene as any bearing on my thoughts on the show.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should get into it. I don't know if anybody...
Yeah, because I feel like...
We're done with the episode.
Yeah, I don't know if that necessarily would have affected my judgment one way or the other. But, you know, that's just me. And I could tell with you it obviously did, whichever way you go.
It did.
But, yeah, well, anything else you guys want to talk about as far as the show goes or any of the other things before we get into the green light or cancel?
Nothing for me.
I think we thoroughly hashed that one out.
Yeah, not much that I can think of to add on really, other than the first Peacock exclusive show that we've covered. We see a difference. Like we've done a few Netflix originals. This is a Peacock original, and I will say up front, like I think there is a drastic change in quality when you look at these. These are still formatted where this could have easily been taken off of the streaming platform and just put on regular network television, and it seems like it fits. Where some of the Netflix shows have this taste of Netflix on them that like they almost don't belong outside of the streaming service.
Well, I think
Mama's low-budget TV show.
Well, I think that's kind of the point with those because, you know, NBC owns Peacock. So in the event that they have a space, I would imagine that they would just yank this from Peacock and just dump it on NBC primetime in the event that they need to do it.
Right, but you know what I thought was
Play it
weird
in the
was
summertime as a replacement for something.
Yeah,
they can always
exactly.
throw it on there.
you
And it's
could
cut with the commercial
in
breaks.
theory, yeah,
availability.
but this episode was 30 minutes long with no commercials.
I was gonna say
So,
they would have to cut it down.
Yeah, you'd have to cut
There's
this down
some
pretty
stuff they
severely.
could cut out of this.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
could cut out their
They-
commercial
yeah,
time.
They could cut this out.
But you're talking an extra 8 minutes of footage. You know, like I was surprised when I started watching. I'm like, wait, this is 30 minutes long. I just wasn't prepared for that. Just thinking I was going to get 22 minutes of episode. But that happens with a lot of these streaming shows where not only do they run past 22 minutes, but you'll see even from episode to episode, they all have completely different running times. I guess that's enough with that. And let's get into the green light or cancel. I'm going to go in the order I see you guys. Joe, I'm starting with you.
Sure. So, look, this isn't my favorite Michael Schur or Ed Helms vehicle by any means, right? But this is the kind of thing that I was really excited when it was coming on, right? It's mindless and it's funny and it's the kind of show that you like everybody on it and it sort of just plays in the background. You know, like I said, we did watch it. If there's a season 2, I would watch that again. I would watch another episode. So it's just like one of those ones that I don't have a ton to say. We talked a lot about it. It's just like, I don't know. It's definitely a modern NBC show, and I feel like there's a weird soft spot for those for me when I think back of the like Thursday blocks of The Office and Parks and Rec and 30 Rock, and this seems like something that would have got slotted in there. So I'll greenlight this, even though I had some issues with some of it.
Gordo.
So this is where my problem comes in. As far as the episode itself, I didn't like this show. I don't know what it was about this show. I just didn't like it. The hook didn't grab me. The characters didn't really do it for me. It had a couple, I laughed a little bit, but overall, I didn't want to see a second episode until I saw the trailer for the rest of the season. So it kind of gave me, so any questions that I had, it kind of started plugging those holes. So I was unsure whether or not I wanted to greenlight or cancel this, but I'm going to go with just the television show and not the trailer. So I'm going to cancel it, but the trailer does make you want to follow up, and I know that that's kind of the point of it, but if you have to show that in a streaming platform, to me that just says that the show isn't strong enough to keep you and hook you.
Ferg.
Cancel. This show brought me no joy. I fucking hated every character. I was bored. I had a few laughs, but few laughs does not make it the show. I was bored for the majority of it. A few little things I liked, and it just made me wish, like, it reminded me of a lot of other shows that just made me want to watch other shows. I think the show wasn't good enough for TV, which is why they put it on their streaming network. So, yeah, cancel.
Nick.
Yeah, I'm with Gordo and Ferg here. I didn't like any of the characters. I didn't like Ed Helms' character. I didn't like the story. The story wasn't enticing enough. Ferg kind of touched on it. Like, I feel like they've pulled from a lot of different other sources for this content, and all the other sources are just better. There were a few lighthearted, funny moments, and but like Ferg said, that doesn't make a show. I was on the fence about maybe like very, very soft greenlighting this show because I could see its potential. But if I'm going off, and I also didn't like that the trailer was there. Like, the trailer kind of fucked me up too. If I'm ignoring that, I'm canceling it. There's just not enough there. I think it has potential, though, so it's one of those shows that I'm going to cancel, but I may give it another shot, personally, to just keep going with it. But as of right now, cancel.
All right, and for me, you know, I was a little on the fence as well, but ultimately, and I think I'm kind of unfairly doing this if I'm being completely honest and transparent, but I'm going to greenlight it, but I think that's for maybe unfair reasons, and I'll explain why. I thought the show was good enough. I wasn't overjoyed with it. I would continue to watch it. I didn't dislike it. And I think what leaned me over the edge, though, was knowing that it is a Michael Schur show. And then I think about the other ones. And I think about The Office and Parks and Rec and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and shows that I wasn't instantly sold on any of those shows the first time I saw them. So I know that once the ball gets rolling, it starts to pick up, usually with their shows. And I think I am unfairly thinking about that stuff, but there is a part of me that's like, all right, it's going to pick up. There's more there. And like I said, I didn't hate the show, so it wasn't like such a cut and dry yes or no anyway. So I think just knowing that is what's pushing me in the direction to greenlight it.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, I mean, if you go back and you look at something like Parks and Rec, I didn't like the pilot. So there is potential here, but I think the overall the atmosphere in which this show exists doesn't have enough to give you a good story. Like, I can see them doing stuff with a small town government and all these employees like they did with Parks and Rec. This one guy who's just like really obsessed with his past, living in a town that nobody gives a fuck about. I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't get it.
Yeah, no, and I get it, because even like, I think when all the shows we've compared it to, right, the other Michael Schur shows, I guess you would most closely compare it to like Parks and Rec, as far as like the kind of town it's in and stuff.
Yeah.
But Parks and Rec is presented a lot brighter and animated, even early on, even though it was a little slow in the first couple of seasons, it was still like a brighter presentation. This town is kind of inherently dull, and really the only thing that livened it up are a couple of the side characters, right? So like Bobby and Miss Fish, who were both a little more fun and upbeat, whereas the main characters themselves, you're not getting a lot there. I think there's something charming about Regan's character. I think there was a little bit there. I did like her character. Like we said with Nathan, like Ed Helms, we keep comparing him to Andy, but I think that's unfair. Maybe we just need to compare it to Ed Helms and just how he tends to act.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, I think there was just enough for me, but it wasn't clear cut. It was close. But with that being said, that's only 2 out of 5. So unfortunately for Rutherford Falls, you do not pass. You do not get a second episode. So I am sorry for that.
It's the first cancel in a while, I think.
Yeah, we had a couple.
Yeah.
We're on a green light.
Good mood. Yeah, ever since I think Mulaney, we're on a pretty good run.
Yeah.
But
Mulaney was not getting green
yeah.
light.
So
Everything's good compared to Mulaney. So.
yes,
I'd rather watch this than Mulaney.
I think for those of you who want to go back to Mulaney, we did John Mulaney's sitcom. I think universally we agreed that is the worst show we've watched so far, and this is a show that we have covered. Country Comfort.
No. We did not say the worst. We did not say it was worse than Country Comfort.
It's worse than
I think
Country Comfort.
you specifically, Joe. I think I could pull a clip of you specifically saying it was worse than Country Comfort.
I also agree. I think it was worse than Country Comfort.
I do too.
I think in my green light or cancel, I said I would watch this over Country Comfort.
But
I
in
would
any
watch
event,
Country Comfort over this.
The difference between
we'll check with
Mulaney,
the
though,
moderators
and
on
this
that.
show is I liked hating Mulaney. Like, it was fun hating it because we could laugh at it. Like, this show was so neutral for me. I didn't even enjoy not liking it.
like I said, it is a little dull at times. But in any event, again, sorry to Rutherford Falls. You do not continue on. I want to remind all of you guys, go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find the links to all of our social media, everywhere where you can listen to us. Please rate, review, subscribe, do all that. I said it earlier, I'm saying it again now. Please, guys, follow our social medias. We enjoy interacting with all you guys. We appreciate the downloads. We appreciate all the listeners. Yeah, but we need the interaction. We need the social interaction. Please follow us. Spread the word. It means a lot to us. But that's it. That's all the time we have this week. Catch us again next week. Thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best Devo.